Welcome to your daily financial market update for Monday, March 9th, 2026. Today, we're breaking down what happened in the stock market, where Bitcoin and the precious metals market are trading, and the key financial events investors should be watching over the next several days. Let's start with the stock market. U.S. equities open the week cautiously as investors continue to weigh interest rate expectations, global economic signals, and commodity price movements. The major indexes started the day mixed, with the S&P 500 hovering near recent levels after last week's volatility. The Dow Jones Industrial Average showed modest movement early in the session, while the Nasdaq Composite again attracted attention thanks to continued interest in large technology companies. One of the key themes right now in the market is uncertainty around the Federal Reserve's next moves. Inflation has cooled from the highs seen in previous years, but price pressures remain sticky enough that investors are still debating when the next meaningful interest rate cuts could occur. As a result, traders are paying extremely close attention to economic data and commentary from Federal Reserve officials. Another factor influencing equities today is energy prices. Oil markets remain volatile due to ongoing geopolitical tensions and supply concerns. Rising oil prices tend to ripple across the economy because higher fuel costs can push inflation upward, which is something central banks are watching carefully. That dynamic has caused investors to rotate between sectors, with energy companies seeing increased interest, while some growth sectors have experienced occasional pullbacks. Now let's turn to the cryptocurrency market. Bitcoin continues to trade near historically strong levels, but with the kind of volatility that has become typical for the asset. As of today, Bitcoin is hovering around the upper $60,000 range, fluctuating throughout the day as traders react to macroeconomic news and global risk sentiment. One of the major developments supporting Bitcoin over the past year has been the continued growth of institutional participation through spot Bitcoin exchange traded funds. These investment vehicles have brought significant capital into the crypto market and have made it easier for traditional investors to gain exposure without directly purchasing digital assets. At the same time, Bitcoin remains highly sensitive to broader financial conditions. When interest rates are high and liquidity tightens, speculative assets can face pressure. But when investors become concerned about currency stability or inflation risks, Bitcoin often sees renewed demand as a form of digital store of value. Moving on to precious metals. Gold remains one of the most closely watched assets right now as investors continue looking for safe haven protection. Gold prices have been trading near historically elevated levels after a strong run over the past year. Several factors are supporting gold, including ongoing geopolitical uncertainty, persistent inflation concerns, and strong buying from central banks around the world. Central banks in many countries have been increasing their gold reserves as a way to diversify away from reliance on traditional reserve currencies. That steady demand has helped underpin the long-term trend in the gold market. Silver has also been showing strength alongside gold. While silver benefits from safe haven demand, it also has a major industrial component. Silver is heavily used in electronics, renewable energy technologies, and solar panel manufacturing. Because of that dual role, silver prices can sometimes move even more aggressively than gold when commodity markets are heating up. Now let's look ahead to the financial events investors will be watching for the rest of this week. First, economic data will remain front and center. Markets are closely monitoring inflation indicators, consumer spending numbers, and manufacturing data to gauge the overall health of the economy. If upcoming reports show inflation slowing more than expected, that could increase optimism that the Federal Reserve might begin easing policy later this year. Second, Federal Reserve commentary will be closely analyzed. Several policymakers are scheduled to speak during the week, and investors will be listening carefully for clues about how central bankers interpret recent economic trends. Third, energy markets remain a critical variable. Any developments affecting global oil supply could influence inflation expectations and potentially shift investor sentiment across multiple asset classes. Fourth, investors are keeping an eye on developments in the technology sector. Large tech companies continue to dominate market leadership, and any corporate announcements or strategic updates could influence the direction of the broader indexes. Finally, cryptocurrency markets are expected to remain highly active as institutional participation continues to grow. Traders will be watching flows into Bitcoin ETFs and monitoring broader market sentiment to see whether Bitcoin can maintain its recent price range or attempt another push toward new highs. So, to summarize today's market picture, stocks are starting the week cautiously as investors evaluate interest rate expectations and energy prices. Bitcoin remains volatile but elevated as institutional interest continues. Gold and silver are holding strong amid geopolitical uncertainty and inflation concerns. As we move further into the week, economic data releases, Federal Reserve commentary, and developments in global commodity markets will likely set the tone for financial markets. That's your daily financial market update for Monday, March 9th, 2026. Stay tuned for tomorrow's report as we continue tracking the markets and the forces shaping the global financial landscape. Remember, if you like updates like these, please like and subscribe.